Well, viewers, I mean, things have been heating up so much in these past few weeks. I mean, we're not yet done with our political conversations and the commentary on what's been happening within our space. And joining us on set this morning is political analyst Anthony James. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you?
Very blessed morning to you, and I'm getting there.
You're getting there. Now, there's been a lot of calls this past week since the Chief Secretary, Fali Augustine, made that statement and clarified a lot of the controversial things within the space. He made a statement on Friday, and since then there have been many calls for his resignation. What are your opinions on that at this point?
Well, it's a tricky thing for him to resign because, as we have learned more, he has basically implicated the entire executive, and so that to call for him to resign, you really need, if we have to demand resignations, we have to demand the resignation of the entire executive council. How that will work will be quite, for that to pan out, to be very difficult. So I don't suspect that there will be any resignations, but I rather suspect, because of the political pressure that will be mounted, I reasonably expect that there'll be elections next year.
Some interesting predictions.
Yeah, that's my vantage point on it.
Now, after hearing what the chief secretary said on Friday, I mean, how do you feel about that explanation that he gave? Saying that all of this was tied to some form of blackmail to pay contractors outstanding money.
Well, the blackmailing issue is one and apart. The fact of the matter is that they could not use the statement if the statement was not made. And I was, to be honest with you, very shocked. But I had learned before that it was the executive council. But when the statement was made, I couldn't believe that, the entire executive council, in fact, it was an executive council meeting. I was shocked at that the executive council will actually use the electorate's time, the government's time, the electorate's time to be discussing that kind of thing. Where, we know the issue already. They are planning to use state funds, to spread propaganda, and, and it's all about the narrative. That word, narrative, is very, very critical to what is going on, because it has become a stroke, perhaps a master stroke now. It's all about shaping the narrative. It's a very dangerous terminology, really, because in large part, given the context in which it is used, it is all about primarily to manipulate people. It is not based on anything genuine. It's all about shaping, and to back that up, you wanted to hire people to shape and to capitalize upon the moves that were taking place in Trinidad, and the people like me, who in Tobago, will react if Tobago's sovereignty is threatened, and so on. So they were talking about shaping the narrative, really like capitalizing, because the executive is not leading anything where what they call autonomy. I don't deal with autonomy, I deal with the sovereignty of the people of Tobago. There is no leadership there, but rather to stay from behind and take the catch that slips in there, and capitalizing and so. So I was really, really shocked too when I found out that is the entire
Executive council.
council. Yeah?
And what about even the explanation given by the chief secretary, stating that they discuss everything, whether it's a good plan, whether it's a bad plan. It doesn't mean that they are going to act on it, but they flesh it out and then they decide after. I mean, was that a sufficient?
No,
Was that
not
an
at all.
acceptable?
Well, I don't accept that.
Okay.
Only the weak-minded, those who are very susceptible and vulnerable, lightheaded, He can only convince the fanatical supporters and so on. But no logical, reasonable person, no self-respecting Tobagonian will accept that, right? So it all comes down again to shaping the narrative. That's what he's going to say. Instead of coming clean. For instance, I'm hearing on another network yesterday that another television host, as the case may be, was asked to apologize. You follow what I'm saying? I mean, where are we really going here in Tobago? The chief secretary obviously would have misrepresented us, betrayed our trust, and so on, not knowing that we will find out that he was planning to betray our trust. And you're having people now responding spontaneously based on how they feel and assess. And people have been asked to apologize. But here it is that the chief secretary and his executive council have not apologize to the people. In fact, they're really defending, and that's dangerous. They're actually defending. So you say, well, we explore everything. This is what we always do as politicians, you know. We explore the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever, and evidently we didn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? It's disingenuous to come to say, well, you would discuss. So they came up, the time they spent by themselves there in private, they came up with the defense. And they came up with a narrative and they felt that that was good. But clearly, in my judgment and the population's judgment, that they didn't deceive anybody there. Mm-hmm. Of course, their loyal supporters will continue to support. And it's not really, I'm telling you this, it's not really the executive council, Mr. Augustine, that people are really supporting. When you say people hold on to that which is not plausible, they're really defending themselves and what they can get out of it. Another element of that is that they don't want the PNM to go back in, and they haven't seen another option that they can ride with at the moment. But we have to be able to isolate issues. What the chief secretary did and the executive council did was wrong, and there must be no compromise where that is concerned. And so that there is some truth. I believe there is some truth, because I had said it after he has now become blackmailable. But apparently he said he got it in March, and so that it was being used to blackmail him. I'm not doubting that. And those blackmailing issues, I don't know if we can discuss it here, but that's a very, very serious issue that we must not ignore either. Because one of the things we tend to do in Tobago is we can be focusing on one and not really and forgetting the importance of the other. But all those issues need to be prosecuted.
Now, one of the things that came out of what he said, and especially in relation to the blackmail, I mean, because he explained that his life was threatened, his family's lives were threatened, some of the members of the executive councils, as well as some public servants, received threats, or, you know, in one case, cars got keyed, and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But he also said that when he reported it to the police, there was nothing much done. Yeah. But yet the police is investigating the audio clip. I mean, how should we react to this? Is there any? I mean, is that right?
Well, it's not. He has a significant point there, as I just said there. The society should pay attention to all the issues, because they are all public issues, you know. So that clearly is not right, and it shows you the precarious position the status of Tobago is in. And when you can have, allegedly, and I was informed of that before, that members of the executive council were receiving threats and literally were afraid, I can tell you that. I mean, that's unacceptable in the Tobago space, that you can have people emerging in Tobago feeling so strong and so mighty and so powerful. And it just tells you about the inequity, the inequality and inequity of the social, the political, and even the educational opportunities that are available in the way that politics distribute and apportion education, apportion resources. We need to be very careful about that we don't empower a certain entity and a certain lot where they now believe that they're invincible and they can do what they want. I'm going to say that is totally unacceptable. And it just tells you, I don't want to drift too much, because Tobagonians must understand that this is unacceptable that we can have an ordinary citizen threatening the executive council, threatening the chief secretary. If you threaten the chief secretary, you have threatened me. And you have threatened the entire electorate because he's not there by himself. Mm-hmm. And this is why he ought not to have done what he did. And he still at least, and the executive council, to do the decent thing, to apologize to the people instead of coming up with this narrative. That's what he did there.
Right.
Shape a narrative. Go ahead.
All right. Well, we're going to have to stick a pin right there, but we'll continue this discussion when we come back after this quick break. Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversation with political activist Mr. Anthony James, who has quite a lot to say in some of the recent developments, especially with the Executive Council, the statement made by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine. Just before we went to break, we were speaking about the matter of blackmail and the fact that, even though there is some action that Mr. James believes should be taken by the Chief Secretary in terms of, stepping down, or the entire Executive Council stepping down as a result of this audio clip. There's also that matter of the blackmail that needs to be dealt with. And Mr. James, I want to ask you, because we've seen here that the police and the Integrity Commission stepped in and when the information about the audio clip was in the public space, they stepped in and started investigating. But according to the Chief Secretary, they did not investigate the blackmail. What does that say about just the power the THA has in regards to national security?
That's the point, really. And it tells you that Tobago is nowhere in terms of the security of Tobago. That is what that speaks to. And how can you run a government without security? How can you do that? And even in the new bills that have been prepared, the principles of those bills, the drafters, they put nothing there in those bills with regards to Tobagonians having ministers or secretaries for defense. Why must the security of Tobagonians belong somewhere else? And so that all those bills are really not about sovereignty and autonomy and so on. They're really about colonization, to continue the colonization of Tobago. And it's a risky thing now, given the kind of criminal nature of the society now, to get into politics there where you don't have your own security. And when I say your own security, because every government must have a police force, if not an army. But what is happening here, it is quite possible that the investigation into the whole affair is biased. It's quite possible that is going on. It is quite possible that the forces or the power structure in Trinidad, which is opposed to the Tobago House of Assembly, and generally speaking, it is opposed to the Tobago House Assembly, regardless of who occupies the Tobago House Assembly, so that they can now use the power that they have against Tobago. So you're perhaps having a one-sided, a biased approach to this whole thing. And I'm saying all these matters are really teaching Tobagonians. We should be coming to a better place of understanding. And for starters, Tobagonians have a right to policy and to legislate and to adjudicate every single matter of the Tobagonian story. It is not for the power structure that we have no power over in Trinidad, because Tobago can't vote in government and Tobagonians can't vote out government. And you have secretaries, I know, because I had known about it before, you have secretaries who are literally afraid. I have to even counsel one of the secretaries to stay close to God. But once you stay close to God, the weapons could be formed against you, but the weapons cannot prosper. God is our best security, but it's something that should speak to us and teach us I have no doubt that that is what is going on. I'm not saying the Integrity Commission should not investigate anything. They have all the right to do what they have to do by law. I'm also saying that if you're having from a head of government allegations that his security, his life, limb, and that of his executive council, right, would threaten, then it is important. But he can't call on them to do it. Well, I mean, he can't instruct them to do it. And they can very well get away with not doing it either. And this is how precarious. And I'm saying if we are responsible people, we're serious about life and politics and the evolution of Tobago, then we need to pay attention to that.
What about the responsibility of businessmen in all of this? Because we have one businessman saying that he would not let up unless the THA pays all the money that is owed to him. As the Chief Secretary explained, there is an issue in terms of having enough money within the development budget to be able to treat with all the issues that need to be treated. Because if you pay one contractor, the bill is so high, you would not have any money to do anything else.
Well, clearly.
So then how should Tobago businessmen know? What should their role be in all of this?
Well, in anything we do, we have to exercise wisdom and judgment. If the assembly doesn't have the money, it doesn't have the money. And the truth of the matter is, the assembly does not have the money. And in my own reading of the politics leading up to the election, there was a lot of undue spending. And that is the corruption that has been going on that we need to be true to. There are a lot of corruption. I was amazed and I'm so shocked too that the Chief Secretary took this opportunity, because that information should have been in the public domain already. The amount of nefarious activities that we heard about there. But I'm not surprised, because I'm in the space and I know what is going on down in Wokes, down there, what has been going on and elsewhere. I'm around. I know Comintong. So what they do now, they will tell you now, take it to the police. They said, Kamala Prasad, says, members of our cabinet said the same thing too. When the PNM came in, they accused the UNC of corruption. In my own judgment, the UNC government has been the most corrupt government this place has ever witnessed. And corruption is not legal. They are doing it within the ambit of the law. Contracts now are so expensive. The bar is so high. Right there, the corruption is. Because what we could have done for 5 cents, we are now doing it for $500. That is where the corruption is. It is happening within the legal aspect and within the construction industry. What we could have done for 500 is now being done for 500. So one contractor comes in and bid $500 project, and when you go to the other contractor too, he come up with $499, $501, and that's where the corruption is. So they will come even here and say, well, take it to the police. Who they trying to fool really? But money going into people's pocket. But Tobagonians are still suffering. A lot of people suffering to get their houses rewired and all of that. There is poverty within the society. And the money is just millions of dollars. And they buy up all the lands in Tobago. And these are issues that the society must discuss. That you put the money in the hands of a few people and they have all the wealth. Well, everything, and I repeat, everything is wrong about that. But I'm saying the Chief Secretary should not have been reacting. He's elected to lead on all the issues of societal building and concern in Tobago. He ought to be addressing the nation and to speak to all those issues. But he has not been doing that because he's not a leader. As I said, Mr. Duke formed his thing and he happened. And much of the executive council also just happened. Even when he came to address this issue here, he hid. Most people say it is in a dark room. You could even make out members there. I was there setting up because they said, well, it was 9 or whatever the time that you're going to come, and you can't find it. And after a while, somebody, after about 20 minutes, called me to say, well, it's going on and so and so. there should have been a media briefing. That is not a media conference with the journalists to face the public. He deliberately did not go down that road because he's not in a position to answer questions. And so that the narrative he came up with, he's not really confident about it. If he was really confident that they did nothing wrong, they planned something wrong and did nothing wrong, then he should have come to updates. Up to now, he hasn't done that. And critically, even with the matter, with the appointment of the chief administrator, he has the prime minister misleading the nation. And the prime minister has been doing that. And see, when people do those things, they come across with a straight face and so innocent. So he said, well, the prime minister is talking truth. He even wants a third party now to be with the chief secretary. So the prime minister is really talking the truth. And the fact of the matter, the evidence, the prime minister is misleading the nation. But Mr. Augustine, who was in meeting with him, should have come forward to deal with the issue head on, because he knows what really went on and what consultation, both of them, what names he would have submitted, the prime minister submitted, and the prime minister has no business submitting any name anywhere. It is not his. He's not working with the person. He has no business submitting any name. But the point I'm making there is that the chief secretary is still in hiding.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Mr. James, for your many words of wisdom. And analysts here today, certainly grateful for it.
Yeah.
So thank you again. And viewers, yes, I mean, as Mr. James mentioned about the chief administrator, yes, we are still without a chief administrator in the Tobago House of Assembly over a month now. It continues to be a concern, especially with the budget coming up, well, supposed to be coming up. So, I mean, the chief administrator is supposed to sign off on some things before we can even hear the budget. And that's due at the end of June. So we continue to have crisis after crisis, unfortunately, within our assembly. But, I mean, we'll deal with those matters as the days go on again. But thank you. And we're going to go to a quick break and continue with the rest of the program.
1,000 people strong, and the vibes is never